We would be remiss to let you go, Kevin, without making some kind of spin on the Deion Sanders, just his continued tenure there at Colorado. A lot of people thought that he would make a splash and then take off for somewhere else. Obviously, there's no longer the storyline or narrative of his sons playing for him. Things have kind of settled down. There was supposed to be a fall off last year, but not to the degree that there was. So, what is the current thought process of how Deion Sanders is leading this program?
Yeah, I think it's been tough to evaluate him each year because the first year he brought in 70 new players via the portal, and it was just sort of get rid of the 1-11 stink, and we'll just take whatever we get. And they won 4 games, which I think after they went 3-0, people were hoping for more, but 4 wins was still an impressive, I would say, turnaround. The second year was tremendous. They won 9 games. They made it to the Alamo Bowl, which was their first bowl game since really 2016, because they made one in the COVID year, but that was like they played like 5 games or 6 games, whatever it was. So second year was phenomenal, and then this past year he's battling cancer before the season, so he wasn't really around all that much. I think he had to put a lot of trust into other people around the program who are either no longer with the program or no longer in positions of power to sort of run things. And I think Colorado was just working from behind the 8 ball immediately last year because of his inability to be involved. And I mean, the guy was fighting cancer, so you can't really hold that against him. So this year he's super involved with the roster construction. He has said that he's watched the film of every player they've brought in, which is sort of a turnaround from last year where I think he relied on other people who, like I said, are no longer a part of the program to do so. He is heavily involved with these spring workouts. You could see him in all the videos. And I just think Coach Prime is owed a little bit of grace because I think he inherited one of the toughest jobs in college football because Colorado, quite frankly, isn't it's not the most exciting market. It doesn't have the biggest, richest history of success, and they don't have a lot of recent success as well. So he's coming into a program where it's hard to attract talent. It's hard to sort of be like, look at what we've done, because they haven't done much recently. And I think he's shown that he could win there. It's just a matter of whether or not he could sustain success. And I think he can. I just think it's all about putting the right people around him. And I think he did that this offseason.
I'm going to use this term, and I've been criticized for it in the past, and it's not necessarily a derogatory term, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. Has the circus of sorts, has it died down?
I think there was a lot of pomp and circumstance the first year just because it was Deion Sanders, right? He was arguably the most famous athlete of many of our lifetimes, probably one of the most best athletes on the planet in the history of the planet. And I think that has died down a tad. I think the overall buzz has sort of simmered just because people were excited to see him in general. And then I think there's a lot of hate watching in year one where it was like people wanted to see him fail. And then in year two, they were really good. And his son was supposed to be a first round pick. And we all know how that turned out. I think the NFL sent a message there, but Travis Hunter was a Heisman winner. I just think people are sort of still figuring out if they care or not about Deion Sanders' Colorado program without his sons. They're still nationally televised every week, so people do care enough. But I still think that there's a lot of entertainment there. I just don't think that overall buzz from that first year is there. And I don't know if we'll ever see that buzz ever again for anyone, right? That was otherworldly. Like, I don't think we'll ever see a program get big noon kickoff and College Game Day like 2 weeks in a row as they were getting. Like, I just don't know if we'll ever see that again. So it's hard to compare it to that, but there's still a lot of buzz around Boulder. There's still a lot of excitement around Coach Prime.
The interesting angle on Deion Sanders that I think of is that he brought his celebrity with him. And I don't think there's another example of that in the history of college football. Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, fill in the blank of famous coach. Well, they became famous because they were great college football coaches. They were nobodies until they proved themselves on the field. He's the, NFL, one of the greatest of all time, TV celebrity, everything. He was a star before he arrived. And there is no other example of that ever happening in college football. So it's just a unique narrative storyline and scene that we witness week after week those first couple seasons.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever see, like, I don't even know who, like, an athlete of that stature. It'd have to be like LeBron James, like, randomly deciding to coach college basketball, I guess. I don't know. Like, it's a top 1% of professional athletes. It's the top 1% of the top 1%. Like that is where Deion Sanders is at in that category. And I just don't know if we'll ever see that again. And I don't know if we realized that at the time, but it was certainly a special time.
You can catch Kevin Borba on a daily basis, Locked On Buffs. So that's your destination. Appreciate you joining us here at the Voice of College Football as well. Kevin, thanks for stopping by, getting us set for spring practice.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I'll see you when the season rolls around.